All right, thank you so much for joining in, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started um, in discussion about the meeting manager. And just give you a little heads up about myself. I'm Lexi Brun. I take care of most of the customer success and support. And with Aprika, I've been with Aprika for 2 years now. Just had my work anniversary this month. So that's great. And in the Salesforce ecosystem for about 3 or 4 years now. On the agenda today, we are going to explore the meeting manager and discuss how it can be used to keep track of your projects. So the meeting manager it's basically a collection of meetings. So it's going to hold a group of different meetings and keep track of the agenda, keep track of which users have come to and attended the meeting, and really allows you to organize all of your discussions across your projects. You'll also be able to log time and so forth, which we'll see in the demo today. All right, so again, the objectives for today will be to be able to create new meetings, set up agenda items, um, you know, select who's attended the meeting, who was unable to make it and why. Um, you know, you'll be able to record if you've had frequent meetings and you wanted to continue to use those meetings with existing topics and attendees and agenda items, attendees, agenda items and agenda tasks that you can load in different meetings. And then once a meeting has been completed, you can also export your meeting notes PDF, which can be downloaded and shared. This will also include information on the meeting as well as agenda item notes, attendees, agenda tasks, and so forth. So let's go ahead and take a look at the meeting manager. So there's a few places that you can navigate to the meeting manager from. One being from the Launchpad. So this is going to allow you to create a new meeting manager if you haven't had one existing, which is what we'll do in just a second. You can also navigate to the meeting manager, existing meeting managers from the management pad. So if you already have one that you've created, you can navigate to that from there. And then you also have the meeting manager tab in our navigation at the top of the Mission Control app. So that's going to take you straight away to the component. I will click this just to show you that if you have not already created a meeting manager to search and you need to create a new meeting manager, you need to select this plus icon from here. But just for the purpose of this demonstration, I will go ahead and create one from the Launchpad, which is going to take me to that tab and already select the new meeting manager button for me. So this meeting manager is going to be related to a project that I already have created called Aprika Website Build. And in this discussion, we're going to discuss the design phase of this project. And I'll just put that in the notes here. So the meeting manager is the overall bucket that's holding all of the smaller meetings within it. So in order to use the meeting manager, you will then need to create the meetings within it. Okay, so the meeting manager is going to collect a collection of meetings, and then you'll have to have those individual meetings within the meeting manager. You can load in from existing meetings. So I already have one pre-built that I will go ahead and load in. And then I'm just going to add a few items here to this meeting. So of course, I've created this template quite a while ago. So we're going to update the dates for that. We're going to host this meeting today on Zoom. And if I needed to create a Salesforce event for this, I will just select the event checkbox, type any notes or objectives for this meeting, And then I'll go ahead and build out my meeting. So I already have here from the item that I've loaded in, we want to discuss the homepage design. We need to discuss creating a domain for the website. And I can either hit enter or select the plus button for that item to be created. I'm just going to hit enter. We're going to discuss navigation, a color scheme for the site, and a click path. I also need to create a list of attendees. So myself, a few other users. This is going to be important for when I'm logging the attendees for the meeting, or if time needs to be logged for the meeting. You want to make sure you have your attendees created here. Okay. So I'm not going to create an event. I don't need it on my calendar. This is just for play. So let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so we've created our meeting. We are now inside of the meeting by, if you don't have this screen open, for instance, you've been looking at other meetings and you want to navigate to this page, you will need to select the eye icon on the meeting that you would like to view. If you would like to edit the details that we were just viewing, you would do so from here. All right. So now we're in our meeting, we're conducting the meeting, we have our attendees, we know that so-and-so has joined the meeting. Barbara was unable to make it, she had a client appointment. And we actually had Andy join in today for this meeting. Okay, so we want to save our attendees, and this step is important for logging time to the meeting afterwards. So if you don't select who attended, you won't be able to see or log time for any of these users. Okay, so we have our attendees logged. Let's go ahead into the agenda for the meeting. So I might not want to discuss the homepage design first. I actually want to discuss creating the domain first, so I can rearrange the agenda items here and select the order in which I would like to review those with the team. Again, we have that eye icon to open up that summary, and if you need to remove that item, you can do so from there as well. Okay, so we're in the middle of having our meeting. We might want to put in some notes from what we've discussed over the meeting. This is a rich text field, so if you needed to add pictures or other items, you can do so from here. So I'm just going to copy some notes that I've already created and go ahead and continue with the meeting. Now, over the course of the call, we've discovered that, we still need to set up the domain. Chris needs to find which domain provider we're going to go with. So this is something that has not been resolved within this meeting. So I want to make sure that it gets added to the next meeting that's created. And at the end of this demonstration, I'll show you how to load in those agenda tasks into the next meeting. So again, this one's not resolved. We're going to have it added to the next meeting. We're going to save our notes here. And then we want to create some tasks. So per the notes, I still need to set up a domain for the site once I receive approval from Chris. So I'm going to add a task for myself. And that is going to be to set up the domain for the site. Again, you can hit enter, or you can select the plus icon to create that item. Now, we do want to add this to the next meeting so that once it is resolved, we can discuss with the team. We'll then mark it resolved so that it's not carried over to the other meeting. And then if there's any task comments or anything like that I want to add, I can go into that agenda task and add any notes or edit and so forth. So I don't have any comments, but I do want to add an action that I'll need to log time to once I've started to create the domain and so forth. So I already have an existing action for that. Just to give a heads up, I created this project with the action here before the meeting manager and so forth. So I'm already the role that's assigned to this action. All right, so I'll go ahead and save that. But we also have Chris who has a task, and he needs to review the different domain providers. So we'll have a task for that, so that Chris has something to track against. But I didn't create an action for this task, so I'll need to do so right now. And I can do that by selecting this green convert to action icon. So if I was to select this on the one that I already have an action for, it's just going to bring up the action detail. So I'm going to just select this one to create a new action. It's in the design phase of my project, in the design budget. It's already been assigned to Chris. If I needed to add any contributors or anything like that, I can do so from the resource assignment wizard. Status is planned. Might need 2 billable hours to discuss with the client, and maybe 5 non-billable hours to actually review. I can make sure if I need to notify that the action has been created, I can select this. There is other setup that has been done for that to work. If I need to create a Salesforce task or event, I can do so from here by selecting those checkboxes. I'm going to schedule a day for him to do that. So I want him to start on that on Monday and be done by Friday and so forth. So my action is now being created. And if I go into the agenda task, I can now see that his action has been populated on that agenda task. Okay. So the next thing, we've gone ahead and reviewed this portion of the agenda. I'm going to save and move on to the rest of my meeting. So for this, I don't want to make any changes. I want to make sure that I add this to the next meeting because it hasn't been resolved yet. This one has been resolved. I don't want to add it to the next meeting. This one's been resolved. I don't want to add it. And the remaining items I do want to add to the next meeting, okay? So getting back into creating the domain, we've now wrapped up our meeting. And I want to make sure that everyone has their time logged, that they've attended and so forth. So I can go into the action that I've created for this. The meeting took an hour, and it's going to go to that non-billable bucket for all of the users or roles that have attended this meeting. If you want contacts or external users to attend your meetings or to keep track in your meeting manager, you will need to create a role, and the role can just be connected to their contact within your org. So you can create a role for an asset, a contact, or a user. So if you need to add contacts here, they will need to have a role created. All right, so just enter my notes that this was the Preca website, build meeting. I went ahead and saved. All of those time logs have been created for each of the users. And then you do have your start, stop, track time feature here if you wanted to select this at the beginning of the meeting and then turn it off once the meeting is done. You can do that from there as well. Okay, now we've wrapped up our meeting. I want to take a look at the meeting notes, the PDF, so that we can send that to the user that has not been able to join. And you can do so by selecting the PDF button. We can see which users were able to attend, which weren't. The discussion, what we've been able to discuss, what was resolved and what was unresolved. And the other items which we don't have any agenda tasks, or those are going to be carried over to the next meeting. This one is resolved, so we won't be carrying that over. Okay. Yep. All right, so going back to our meeting manager. Now that our meeting has wrapped up, I'm going to set up the meeting for next week, and I'll do so by just selecting the new meeting button. So if you didn't see that, I've done so by selecting this calendar. And I'm going to load this in from the design homepage. Let me just rename this so I know the all right, so let's load in this meeting. This is going to have our updated agenda builder, so you can see the items that were unresolved are now carried over to this new meeting. The resolved issues are not included in the new meeting. We're going to pick our schedule for this, set our time, and so forth if I needed to create an event. And I already have my attendees pulled over from the previous meeting. Okay, so I'm now within that meeting. I can see my notes from the previous agenda item, and I can also see those tasks that were needing to be completed from the previous meeting. So I can mark if it's been resolved and so forth. Okay, so that wraps up the demo for today on the meeting manager. Does anyone have any questions? I do see your question, Michelle, in regards to adding people to your meeting from outside your Salesforce environment. And again, that will be by creating a role for your contacts. Or if they're not a contact, you will need to create a role for that and set it to an asset role type. And then you can add them to the meeting manager. They won't be able to, they won't be able to see the meeting manager if they don't have a mission control license and mission control permission set assigned. But if you were to create like a community and they have a community license, community mission control license, and a permission set, then they would be able to view the meeting manager. Does anyone else have any questions? Can you make asset roles from cloning contacts? So if you wanted a cloned contact, so you have two contacts for just one person, the asset role, so I'll just take you to this. The asset role wouldn't be directly connected to that cloned contact that you've created. So if I select asset, it's not going to be tied to that other contact record. If I select contact here, I actually have a lookup of contacts that are existing within my Salesforce org. So if you want to create another role for the cloned contact, then you can do so here. I don't see my meeting attendees under the time log section. Did I miss a step? Yes, so if you're not seeing your attendees, you'll want to make sure that you marked that they've attended here, and then make sure you save. So you'll need to make sure you've put save here, and that's going to save those checkboxes. And then you'll be able to view them in the time log component. Can you have logic on asset roles, such as how a role relates to a project? You can relate your role to your asset role to a project. For example, you can have placeholder roles on your project templates before the work is assigned to actual resources. But there's certain things that you can't do with an asset role. So you can't create a Salesforce event with an asset role because that role isn't an actual user within your Salesforce org. So they won't have access to Salesforce events. So usually more so placeholder, which you can have logic on if you want to, for example, create a project from an opportunity and you want the asset roles to be the ones that are assigned to the work until a project manager comes in and reassigns and so forth. You can do that. Is there any further questions? And if you don't have further questions on the meeting manager, I can open up for an office hours session. We still have about 37 minutes if you have any further questions outside of the meeting manager as well. Can you show again how to navigate to the meeting PDF? Sure. So to navigate to the meeting PDF, there is a PDF icon next to the trash bucket. So this is going to delete my meeting. There is a PDF icon there. You just click it and that's going to open up a new tab with your meeting PDF. Then from here, if you need to download, print, or so forth, you can do so from here. All right. Can you change the apology name? You cannot change the apology name as this has been created within the component. And it's also going to be a field that's already created on the attendees tab, on the attendees object. So because this field is managed within Mission Control, you won't be able to modify the wording here. You can use something like Translation Workbench or something if you want the label to be different, but within the component, it's going to show as it's been built. Can you show how to see a list of all projects with statuses? There's a few different ways to see a list of all projects and their status values. You can do so from the list view on the project. Select all and make sure that your status field is being shown in your list view. Your list view is going to be limited to, I believe, 200 records at a time, so you may want to filter. You can also view your Gantt chart and select the projects that you want to view. And then you'll need to make sure that you have the status field. So I'm just going to collapse. You'll need to have the status field added to your Gantt chart in one of those columns. Otherwise, it's just going to show you your project bar. Right now, I have my Gantt chart filtered to just one project, but if I wanted to view more than one project, then I can do so from here. I'm going to collapse them all just to the project. And then again, if I had my status added as a value on my Gantt chart, I would be able to see so from here. Otherwise, I would see so on my project. So I just zoomed out so that I can see the percentage. Can you add billable hours remaining? Yes, you can. So right here I have hours scheduled billable, but you can change that to hours remaining billable if you wanted, or on your list view, just add the field. So hours remaining billable. You would just add that to your list view. All right. If anyone has suggestions on other features that you would like to be included in the Kosmo Campfire series, please feel free to drop that in the chat. I will be more than happy to cover off more topics and meet with you guys again next month for our next Kosmo Campfire. Does anyone have any further questions? All right, I'll stay on here a few more seconds to 10:30. If we don't have any further questions, then I will go ahead and put up our support links. So if you have any support issues that you need resolved, please feel free to get in touch with us via support@aprika.com. We are also available through live chat on the website, Aprika website, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. There are a few more links for knowledge materials. These are available at any time. All right, I don't have any more questions. It's now 10:30. So thank you again for joining in. Always great to have you guys. Thanks for asking questions. And I will see you for the next upcoming campfire, which we haven't determined yet. So if you have any suggestions, please feel free to send those out. And everyone have a wonderful rest of the day.